Hey, what's up, everybody? My name's Evan McNaught. I am a landscape architect, map artist, and drone photographer coming to you live from Philadelphia. And I'm also an Adobe Illustrator instructor here on Adobe Live. Today, I wanted to do something really cool, a little different. I have been seeing all these awesome reels and posts on Instagram and social media about tools in Illustrator that I didn't know existed. If you guys are like me, you might be using maybe the same 5 or 6 tools every time you open a project. You start something new and you go, okay, selection tool, pen tool, your basics, and then you kind of get into this habit. But I thought today, let's kind of break out of that box and let's use some really wild things that a lot of people have not heard of. If you have heard of them, maybe throw it in the chat. Let me know. Say, oh, I already know this. I'm a pro. I got all this down. But let's jump into it, okay? So I got a list up here. And the first thing that we're going to learn today is how to rearrange artboards. Now, sounds pretty basic, pretty boring, not that exciting yet, but let's just jump in. All right. So, guys, I was rushing for this stream and I just made a total mess here. All my artboards are all over the place and I'm totally not organized. And now I have to do this live in front of everybody. It's going to be super embarrassing. But luckily, there's this really cool tool called Rearrange Artboards. And so I saw this one online and it just blew my mind because I never knew that you could do this. Over here on the right side of the screen, we have our artboards button, 2 overlapping boxes. And you can see I have all my artboards here laid out, but the issue is that they're a total mess. So down here in the left corner, there's this little button called Rearrange All Artboards. So this is going to get us organized for the stream. We're just going to click that, and then it's going to ask us what the layout is. So how do we want to grid out our artboards? And then how many columns do we want? So in this case, because I have about, looks like 13 artboards, I'm going to do 6 columns so that we have 2 and then 1 extra. And then I'm going to have 1 inch in between each of them. And obviously we want to keep the artwork with the artboard. So let's just see what happens. Oh, that's so much better. Okay, now we are all set to jump into the rest of the tools and really work through this. So the next one we've got here is the selection tool. What? Everybody knows how to use the selection tool. But did you know that there's a secret version of the selection tool? So we're going to jump up here to our first artboard. And we've got these nice saturated shapes here in the middle, and then all these boring gray shapes around it. We're just going to start by locking the background so we can easily select things. So I want to just select the colors in the middle here. And because it's simple, just bear with me, right? We could just select each one, but imagine you had a much more complex design. Well, Adobe added a new thing where if you want to select just what's inside a box, you can start a selection and then press the E key, and you'll see these little brackets come up. And now I have the ability to select the saturated color shapes here. And when I let go, it'll only select what's inside the box. A lot of programs have this. Adobe just added it to this one. And it's so nice now that we can just select these things. So now we can get them out of there and get them away from those boring old gray shapes. So that's one. Okay. Second tool we got here is the Curvature Tool. This one is very, very similar to the pen tool. And I don't click on this much and have never really looked at it. And again, I saw this on Instagram on a really great reel. And I was like, wait, what? I didn't even know this tool existed. So it works similar to the pen tool by adding points. But this time, what it's going to do is it's going to automatically create smooth curves between your points. So let's just make this a little bit easier to see. So you can see my line. It's automatically creating very smooth, clean shapes. Turn that fill off and increase the stroke for everyone. This tool is really, really cool. And I think I'm going to be using it more and more because it just makes things so easy. If you were to do a shape like this with the pen tool, if you're not very good at it, like a lot of people love the pen tool, but it is sort of challenging sometimes. You would work your way through it, and then you might end up with like funny little corners if you're not doing it quite perfectly, or maybe like a little, you forget to go put one in, you got to go back and add it. So the curvature tool makes that really easy. So we can just come in, make some beautiful smooth curves. And then what's cool is if you want to switch any of those to a point, you just double click it. And then it'll take that curve and make it a vertex that is like a sharp corner. And you can always go back, which is cool too, just by double clicking it again. So this gives you a lot of flexibility and makes it really easy for newer Illustrator users to jump in and start making smooth, clean arcs. All right, Curvature Tool. Next, we're going to look at the Touch Type tool. And this one, again, like all these, I'm guilty that I was not using them. And the touch type tool is really awesome because it allows you to edit text without actually editing the actual type itself. So if I wanted to turn this new tools into some kind of new logo or a banner or something and change some things, what I might do is click on it, create outlines, and then I could come in and start to change different sizes of some of the letters and some things like that, and really kind of make it feel a little bit different. But now I've lost the ability to change it if I wanted to say like exciting new tools or something like that. So we're going to just undo that and go back to the live text. And then we're going to go to the touch type tool. So underneath our type tool, all the way at the bottom, is the touch type tool. And probably why I've never clicked on it is because it's one of these like hidden tools. But what this allows you to do is you can actually select letters inside text. So I can actually change the size of this N without having to go into my fonts and increase the point size and things like that. I can change the size of this W, and you can go through and do this with all the letters. So you can keep them uniform, or you can start to do pretty fun things like stretch them out. And then looks like I went outside that text box, so just bring that back. And so now you've got something that's a little bit more different, a little more unique, and the text is completely editable. So if you wanted to change any of this, you could. So you could say a few tools, or you could, but it keeps the size of the letters that you already edited. So that's the touch type tool. All right, let's see here. 8 minutes in, we're doing pretty well. So next up, we have the grid tool. This one, again, super basic, but like I have needed to do this so many times, and I've done it in the most embarrassingly simple way that you would laugh at, and people would say, boy, that's not how you should be doing that. So eventually I learned that there's this thing that's perfect for making grids. Normally I might take a point and make a line, and then maybe I'll copy it over a couple times, select them, and then maybe I'd rotate it and start to make my grid that way. But the grid tool is hidden underneath our line segment tool at rectangular grid. And now we can hold down Alt and click, and we get a little dialog box. It's going to ask us how many horizontal dividers do you want? In this case, let's do 3. And how many vertical dividers? We'll keep that at 5. And then you can skew things left or right, or bottom and top. And so we're just going to keep this as is. We'll let the size stay, and then you just press OK. And now we've got a perfect grid, which we can rescale and use for all kinds of things. This is really, really awesome if you have a bunch of logos or something that you want to show a client, and you don't want to draw these lines out on your paper and have to like space them, this does it for you. And so I know that one's basic, but like one of these things that takes so long to and so boring to do, and turns out there was a button all along. All right. Next, we've got the shaper tool. This one I just clicked on by accident, and I started drawing with it and I couldn't figure out what it does. And then the more I played with it and eventually looked it up, I was like, whoa, this thing's like kind of awesome. It's very intuitive. So if you have a pen tablet or something like that, it makes it really, really easy to quickly iterate and create shapes. So the shaper tool literally just lets you draw shapes, and then it'll take them and turn them into perfect shapes. So like my square here drawing with a mouse is not perfect, but then it creates it. So let's say now I'm going to start overlapping shapes. Well, kind of like the shape builder tool, another really, really fantastic tool, you can start to create things that merge and blend, and you never have to change tools. So this is kind of cool because we can come in here, maybe let's add a triangle. And then you just kind of make this like zigzag gesture across the shapes, and it will start blending them. And you can see the overlaps here too. So you just sort of make this like zigzag, and then you've got new shapes. And what's cool is it retains that information. So if you ever decided that you wanted to go back and sort of undo that, you can actually just zigzag. Whoops. You can sometimes you can save those shapes. So they're still in there, even though they're merged and it looks like it. So that's the shape builder tool. And so this is just like a really quick way you could start to build out things without having to come click different tools every time. So again, I think this would be really cool if you are a pen tablet user and you just want to like very, very fast create a logo, create some design. All right. Graph tool. So in my professional work, sometimes I have to make graphs of things like surveys, or I'll get an Excel table. It'll have a bunch of responses. It might have population data, or it might have all kinds of data that's built into a table. And I don't like using Excel for a lot of things. I just like find it kind of cumbersome. And then I found out that Illustrator has a graph tool built in. And it makes it so much easier to color and create nice looking charts and graphs and things like that from data. So basically, all you have to do is select the graph tool over here on the left, and then there's all kinds of different graphs you can make. We're just going to stick with a basic column, like bar graph for the moment, and we're just going to draw out sort of our boundary for that. So it's going to add that in, and it's just going to give us a template to start with. So right now we have a 1. That's it. But maybe this is, test scores or something like that. So you're an elementary school teacher, you're trying to show the school how many students got A's, B's, C's, etc. So let's just do that. So in the top column, we're going to write A, click to the next cell, B, C, D, and so now we can take these, and underneath them, we could say how many each, or how many students got that grade. So we could say, okay, 5 got A's, we'll say 8 got B's, 4 got C's, 2 got a D, and 1 got an F. Bummer for them. And then we just press the little apply, and now we've got this perfect bar chart, exactly organized from the data. But what's so great about doing this in Illustrator as opposed to any other software is we're so used to editing things. So these are all vectors. And we can come in here and change the colors of shapes and things like that. So let's see. It's not going to let me do it right now on here, but this allows you to come in then and actually change this and make a color scheme or do it however that you, whatever sort of style you're working with. So this is really, really fast and easy to do that. All right, moving on down to the symbol sprayer. Symbols are one of my favorite things in Illustrator. I love working with them. And in this case, let's pretend that I'm doing a little cutesy graphic for tourism board or something. They have like a garden they want a little map of. So I've got this symbol here of a little tree, and normally what you might do is you might want to like spread it out and make this look like a nice graphic. So you could copy the symbol and move it around and maybe scale it. And you work through it, but this could take you a long time. What if you want to go a little bit quicker? So over here, we've got the symbol sprayer tool on the left side, and it looks like the little spray paint. I've literally never clicked on this spray paint bucket or spray paint can before. And then like a week ago, I was like, oh, what's this thing do? And it absolutely blew my mind. So we're going to click on our symbol, and then we're going to click on the spray paint can. And now we can literally paint our symbol into the scene. And you can see it giving some like rough outlines of it. So now we've got plants all over this little garden walkway, and it's keeping them all as one shape, which is really cool. So you can see that they're all selected. And then underneath the spray paint can, we have all these other tools that help you edit and shift those symbols around to look more natural or more unique. Because right now we kind of have a little bit of uniform spacing and they're all the same size. So let's start with the symbol sizer. And now we can literally click on each symbol and just change the size just by hovering and holding down the mouse button. And so very quickly you can start to get some uniform or break that uniformity rather, and get different shapes and different spacing. So now it's starting to feel more and more like a natural space, because obviously nothing in nature is perfectly spaced out and always the same size. So if we wanted to go even further, we could use the symbol scruncher tool. And all of these are sort of within that symbol spraying bucket, you might say. And now these all start to pull symbols towards each other. So you can see what happens is you can see those red outlines kind of giving us a preview of what's going to happen. So we can start to move these so that it feels like it's clustered. So let's pull these together. And it's kind of like a fun little game almost. You just sort of shift things around and start to play with the way it looks. And you, oh, okay, like that's looking pretty nice. And at any point, you can always come back and add some more. So right here is looking a little light. So I want to add a couple more there and come in and then increase the size of this one. So if I were to do this by hand and just move each of these symbols, scale, and try to like cluster them in a random pattern, I don't think I would have been able to do it that quick. And then you can move the entire thing all at once, which is great. So you can see those symbols that we moved originally, they're separate, but the ones that we spray painted on, they stayed as part of this. All right, let's see. We got a couple minutes left already. Whew, these go by quick. So one of my favorite things of all time in Illustrator is graphic styles. And this one, when I figured this out, it just absolutely changed the way that I work on everything. So right here, I've got a square with an orange stroke on it, and I want to move that stroke over to the star. The problem is that I actually, if you go to our appearance panel, I actually have two strokes. And let's add another one just to show everyone how this works. So I can select the stroke, and then I can push the little plus sign for duplicate selected item. Now I've got three strokes. I've got a dark orange one at a 2-point size, a thick light orange one at a 6-point, and then right now I have the same stroke underneath it. So these are sort of layered as you would layer things in the normal layer palette. So for this one, let's change the color to something we can see so it stands out. And let's go to like a dark blue. and then increase that point size. And now you can see it showing up behind the square. So we've built out this whole appearance here of maybe this is like a new style you're using on all kinds of logos and things like that. And so I want to bring it over to the star. One way you might do that is to use the eyedropper tool. But the problem is it only brings that most recent stroke over. So this does not look the same. So what we need to do is come over here to our graphic styles, which is right below the appearance button. It's like a square with two smaller squares underneath it. And we're going to build a new graphic style from this square here. So to do that, simply select it and then push that plus sign. And you can see that our shape came in and the strokes are on it. So now I sort of have that style for anything I need in my library. And I can click this star and simply apply this stroke to it by clicking on the graphic style. And this just saves so much time. And now I don't have to recreate that. And at any point I can bring in new shapes and just click that and it'll apply that same stroke to it. Really quick way. That also works with fills. So for example, this sort of like meadowy grass texture built in the background here, we could turn this into a style just by clicking, and then we could come over here and I want to put that on this square. So it's really, really fast, and man, it saves a lot of time. All right, smooth tool. This one's kind of new. And again, huge improvement over some previous tools. We've got this cute little map, looks like something I would have drawn when I was a little kid here. But you can see that it's got all these little like corners on it. And if we go into the pen tool, you can see it's got a ton of unnecessary vertexes. It's just, it doesn't look very good. So the smooth tool is up here in our windows, and we go object, path, smooth. So previously you would use simplify, but it didn't do a great job. Sometimes it would really it's like leave some corners and things like that. But the smooth tool gives you this nice little dialog box. It's super clean. And you've got your cornered stroke here and your nice smooth one. So basically you just drag that slider and watch as before your eyes, it brings this beautiful smooth stroke in. And then if you were to click back to the pen tool, you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, like it really reduced the number of vertexes. So this is a great way to also bring down very heavy files if you've got a lot of detailed line work. I do this a lot with things like topographic maps. Contours have tons of points on them, and this does a really good job at just simplifying the amount of vertexes. All right. Next, moving on to the mirror tool here. We are almost done. I think we're going to make it. So the mirror tool is like the reflect tool, but it's sort of a live version of that. So I've got this little mountain scene, say this is the sky and some water, and I'm going to go up to Object, Repeat, Mirror. And I'm going to get this new line that comes up, and it's going to let us actually work while we're mirroring something. So you can move it around so you can see how it's mirroring it across this line, and we can also rotate it. So in this case, let's pretend we're making like a little reflection. And up here in the dialog window, you can type in 360 just to be perfect. So anything I do now is going to be mirrored across it. So if I were to copy this mountain over, it's going to mirror it at the bottom. If I scale it, it'll mirror it at the bottom as well. So we'll bring it over again, and it's totally live, which means that I can actually draw in here too. So maybe we could make, whoops, let's make a little cloud up top, Bob Ross style. Ooh, but let's use one of the tools we learned about. Let's use the curvature tool. And then we'll double click these. All right, don't make fun of me. It's not the best cloud, but you get the idea. Now it's showing up down here, and we could send it to the back. And we've got this perfect mirror. It saves you time, and you won't have to work and do double duty. Ooh, I don't know if we'll make it to the bonus, but look that one up, guys. That's awesome. That's a new tool. Last one here, global edit. I got a bunch of stars. I need to edit all of them at once, and I want to make them all this sort of point, like a more pointy version. So over here in properties, down at the bottom, I can start a global edit. And now I have all of these selected and I can change them all at once and update it very quickly. So if you're doing a flag or a 4th of July thing for the holiday coming up, this is a great way to do it. All right, I don't think we're going to have time to do it. Check out Retype Beta. It's a new AI tool coming out from Adobe for Illustrator. I'll show you. It's up here. Type Retype Beta, and it will find a font that you've already exploded, so that you can always get back to it. Whew. All right. I hope that wasn't too much, but thank you so much for joining me today, everyone. I hope you learned something new in one of these lesser known tools in Adobe Illustrator. It was great hanging out, and I'll see you next time.